France is paying tens of billions every year just on interest for its massive debt. At the same time, its politics are gridlocked. With the fifth Prime Minister in 2 years just appointed and no parliamentary majority, can France fix its finances, and what impact could the situation have on the European Union? To understand that, we have to go back to last year's European elections. The far-right National Rally made historic gains in France, while French President Emmanuel Macron's centrist coalition slumped. Macron then took the high-risk decision to call a snap legislative election.
Cette décision est grave, lourde, mais c'est avant tout un acte de confiance. Confiance en vous, mes chers compatriotes, en la capacité du peuple français à faire le choix le plus juste pour lui-même et pour les générations futures.
Well, it may not have been the choice Macron had in mind, but the French people went to the polls and the result led to a hung parliament. The left-wing alliance won the most seats, the centrists came second, and the far-right third. But crucially, none were close to a majority, making the ability to govern difficult. In the meantime, France's debt stands at 3.3 trillion euros, a ratio to GDP of 114.1%, according to Eurostat. France's credit rating was also downgraded by US agency Fitch this month.
Every time a crisis hits France and the world, the debt ratio in France rises because the government reacts to it, borrows and spends. All countries in the world do that. But the difference between France and the others is that debt just doesn't fall afterwards in the period of calm that follows, for example, the global financial crisis or the dot-com crisis or now the pandemic. And so French debt seems to be ratcheting up further and further. There's no evidence that this will ever turn around. And we're reaching levels now where other countries in the past have experienced financial crises. So the question is, can France avoid this? Can they turn the corner? And that's where the politics come in. At the moment, it looks very, very difficult to see a path where they bring the debt ratio down.
Earlier this month, the French said goodbye to François Bayrou as their prime minister and hello to Sébastien Lecornu. Bayrou had tried to force through billions in cuts to address the high debt and lost a no-confidence vote in the parliament as a result. While it is very much national politics on display here, there are concerns too at a European level.
France doesn't have the means to its policies, and it's more difficult to have a strong voice on the different files at EU level when at home you don't have the visibility and you don't have the economic situation that would help you, have a strong voice in the EU. So that's one of the consequences. The other one is that France is not doing what it is supposed to do, meaning reducing the debt and the deficit which was agreed with the Commission and which is expected by the other member states as well as the Commission. And France is not going in that direction. So that's also politically a problem. How reliable is France now with the political situation now and also the perspective of new elections?
With presidential elections not scheduled until around April 2027, the outlook is uncertain and there are even fears of another eurozone debt crisis.
This is a question that I get a lot. Is this a precursor for a new sovereign bond crisis like in 2011-12? Could be. I wouldn't rule it out entirely, but I think at the moment we're still in this stable equilibrium where the ECB's promise to help, if necessary, is sufficient to keep things stable.
Europeans should be worried of the evolution of the situation for France, but also for the EU. I think they should be worried for two reasons. The first one is that the perspective of the far right coming to power is credible now, so that would have an impact on the EU policies, EU rule of law, of course, relationship with Russia, with the US, the putting into question of France's role and place in the EU. So that's one reason to worry. And the second reason is, of course, if France is more aligned with Putin or with Trump, it's more difficult to have this EU unity and EU decisions that are needed to face the challenges, the geopolitical challenges, the security challenges, the economic challenges. So yes, France the situation in France has a big impact on the EU.
One idea from the French left is a new wealth tax on the super rich. Economist Gabriel Zucman says a 2% levy on the 1,800 wealthiest households could raise over 20 billion euros a year. However, critics dispute this figure and warn it might drive the rich out of the country.
From an macroeconomic analysis point of view, let's say cautiously, it wouldn't be the first recommendation that you'd make. The country has an enormously high share of government in GDP, which means both taxes and spending is very high relative to GDP. So I think if you had to advise the French government, start on the expenditure side, not on the revenue side. That being said, the political realities are as they are, right? I said, as a minimum, they have to deliver a few tens of billions of savings. If it is not possible to do this on the expenditure side by cutting expenditure, you may have to do it on the revenue side, and maybe a wealth tax is a way of delivering savings or delivering lower deficits and therefore stabilizing France's macro environment.
France has just weeks to present a credible budget. Whether it's spending cuts, a wealth tax, or more political deadlock, what happens in Paris won't just shape France's future, it could shape the EU as a whole.